This One's Wife, A Day at Montecito, Part 3. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. One of the huge advantages that you have by being able to access my work is that I tell you all about narcissism. This means you get to understand the way that narcissists think and do. You get to understand how the narcissistic dynamic pans out. You get to understand the various manipulations, why they occur. You get to understand why the victim is treated in a particular way and why the victim of a narcissist responds in the way that they do. Although there are different types of narcissists, by having that knowledge about the narcissistic dynamic and the various facets of narcissistic behavior, it enables you, through my work, to predict just how a narcissist will respond. It enables me to explain to you that given a particular situation, this is most likely what a narcissist would do. Invariably, that is done against the backdrop of the pursuit of the prime aims, for the different members or methods rather of seeking control and attaining that. By having access to that knowledge, I'm able to give you a play-by-play account. We've seen many instances of this one's wife when she's been in public. It's enabled me to explain to you what happened when she gives somebody the death stare, why she's blinking furiously, why she's always grabbing at Harry, why there are sometimes incongruous responses. But what we don't have, other than carefully choreographed material, is what goes on behind the scenes. What's really going on behind those walls. Now, of course, I haven't been to that property at Montecito. I don't have CCTV watching them, but I don't need that. Because of my unrivaled understanding of the way that a narcissist behaves and the way that that narcissist interacts with the various individuals, including other narcissists and non-narcissist victims, I'm able to detail to you this is what's really going on. When I explain the way that a narcissist behaves, so many of the comments identify that it's as if you were on the wall, HG, as if you were there. How do you know so much about the way that it interacted in my life? Because I understand my kind. Viewers recognize my descriptions as accurate because it demonstrates precisely what happened in their own experiences, but now they have the added explanation as to why. Not only do I detail precisely what happened, but I tell you why it happened. And I do the same in relation to this one's wife in this short series, A Day at Montecito. Harry is in sustained devaluation, and he has been accused of drinking some of this one's wife's magic green juice. He, fed up with the repeated false accusations being made against him, has said that it's her mother who has actually drunk the juice, Mum staying with them for the foreseeable time, and therefore he walks off. We rejoin matters in this hypothetical yet accurate explanation of A Day at Montecito, as this one's wife goes to the granny flat or the guest house to confront her mother. This one's wife just enters the granny flat without knocking or ringing the bell. She doesn't recognise the boundary. She's accessed all areas. After all, this is her home, and even though it's her mother who has been assigned the guest house, she doesn't respect the privacy. Naturally, she expects her privacy to be respected, but she doesn't recognise it in relation to anybody else, demonstrating her hypocrisy. She finds Doria sat at a seat, having a mug of coffee, reading a magazine. "Ma'am, have you drunk my juice?" accuses this one's wife. There's no "how are you today?" It's straight down to business, and she brandishes the near empty juice bottle. She's seeking to assert control over her mother by triangulating her with the juice bottle. Doria is a narcissist also. Therefore, her need for control is being threatened with this accusation. Doria is actually the one who has drunk the juice. But her narcissism is now going to delete that fact from her mind through a revision of history, so that she can issue a denial with complete conviction in order to reject this threat to control. No, she says, I don't even like that green juice. She does, but once again her narcissism has revised history to tell her that she doesn't like that green juice, she hasn't drunk the green juice, so the accusation that she has drunk it can be rejected, and thus she nullifies the threat to control. Her denial, of course, does not provide this one's wife with the control that she needs. It's like a game of tennis. This one's wife has batted the ball of control towards her mother. She has then successfully returned the serve. Now the ball is back in the court of this one's wife. Her control continues to be threatened. Well, Harry says that you did, she announces. She's now triangulating her mother with Harry. Oh, Harry would say that. Typical of him. Blaming me, says Doria. He's the one that's been drinking it, and he's blaming me. Honestly, that boy, she announces. At this juncture, this one's wife faces two competing claims. Harry, who says that it's the mother that has drunk it, and that's actually the truth, and the mother saying that Harry has drunk it, which is a lie and a revision of history. Neither of those responses, at this juncture, provide this one's wife with the control that she needs. Somebody has been drinking her juice, which is a threat to her control, and there are competing accusations as to who has done it. Her mother is painted white. Harry is painted black because he's in the sustained devaluation. And therefore the narcissism selects for this one's wife to pin the blame on Harry. I knew it was him, announces this one's wife. Honestly, why didn't you just admit that he's been drinking it, but instead he has to blame you, Mama? Doria shakes her head, suggesting agreement. The fact that Harry is now being blamed means that the accusation against Doria has ended. She has got the control she requires. This one's wife has had confirmation that it was Harry who has done it, which she has now accepted. That means that she has a scapegoat, if you will, for the drinking of the green juice, Harry. Although he's not there, she has an indirect subconscious sense of control over him as a consequence of the confirmation from her mother, who is painted white, that Harry is the culprit. Well, he's had to go and buy some more. I told him to, announces this one's wife. This is again her asserting control over Harry in his absence, doing so indirectly. Of course, it's also a revision of history. Harry volunteered to go and get some. She makes it seem as if she has the upper hand because she wishes to portray to her mother that she basically is the one that wears the trousers in the household. Anything else? Asks Doria. No, says this one's wife, turns on her heel and exits. At this point, both narcissists that came together had the potential for a clash, but that was alleviated as a consequence of Harry being the fall guy. This one's wife returns to the main house, and as she does so, she walks along the corridor where she sees the artwork of Archie remains. This acts as a trigger. It has caused Archie and the nanny and the cleaner, or the housekeeper, to enter a sphere of influence. Because upon seeing the crayoning etchings, using Harry's crayons on the wall, this reminds this one's wife of Archie, of the nanny, and, because it needs to be cleaned off, of the housekeeper. Immediately the narcissism asks, in the subconscious, are these individuals under control? The answer is there is no data. And therefore, the narcissism has to, in that split second, decide how is it going to assert control. The starting point is to do so directly, i.e. to hoover them. And in essence, the narcissism deems that this is easy to do because all that this one's wife need do is walk into a room and start to issue her orders. Accordingly, she walks into the nursery to find Archie playing with the nanny and Lilibet there also. Lilibet looks up and smiles, providing her mother with a degree of fuel. She also exhibits that she's under control, therefore no further action is necessarily required in relation to Lilibet. Archie looks up and then looks away. He does not demonstrate that he's under control. Nevertheless, rather than scold him, this one's wife simply jettisons the thought in relation to him and turns on the nanny. "I want these two dressed in those new outfits," she demands, issuing an instruction which is a direct hoover as against the nanny for the purposes of asserting control over her. "Which outfits do you mean?" asks the nanny, not unreasonably, because once again there is the vagueness of the narcissist in issuing an instruction. This one's wife knows full well what she means, and, because of the way that her mind works, she expects the nanny to fully understand precisely what she's referring to, even though she's only been provided with the vaguest of instructions. This is the sense of entitlement and magical thinking of the narcissist in action. The nanny, not unreasonably, doesn't know what this one's wife is talking about, and therefore politely queries. This, however, amounts to challenge fuel. Rather than this one's wife think, "Well, of course she won't know what I'm referring to, they've got lots of outfits and I wasn't specific," it exasperates her. The nanny becomes painted black. Because she's asking a question, which pins accountability on this one's wife, she's threatening control, and added to it, she ought to know what it is anyway, if she was doing her job properly. This causes this one's wife to glare at her, issuing cold fury. Although the children are there, the narcissist deems that no facade need be operated because this is in effect behind closed doors, and neither of the children are really paying any attention to the interaction. Thus, she issues a corrective devaluation, subconsciously, as against the nanny. "You know which ones, the outfits that were bought yesterday." The nanny stands her ground. "I'm not sure. Do you mean the blue ones or the beige ones?" She gets up and stands up to speak with this one's wife. This one's wife still does not have control over the nanny, and this is becoming problematic for her. "I shouldn't have to remind you of which one it is," she says haughtily, demonstrating her absence of emotional empathy and again issuing a direct assertion of control against the nanny. "Yes," says the nanny, trying to keep her own temper, "and I just wanted to be clear about which one you meant." "Oh, the blue one," snaps this one's wife. "Thank you," says the nanny. Although her response is not exactly filled with warmth, her response demonstrates that she's under control. This one's wife marches out of the nursery. Her narcissism still needs her to assert control over the housekeeper because of the crayon that was on the wall. She marches along to the utility room, adjacent to the kitchen, where she finds the housekeeper working away on some laundry. "Why hasn't that crayon been removed?" she demands. Notice again a haughty, almost bullying approach to her staff. "I'm sorry? What crayon?" asks the housekeeper. She, of course, hasn't seen it. She's in a different part of the house and has been working on something else for this one's wife. Again, this failure to know automatically what this one's wife is referring to and to have failed to have dealt with something immediately threatens the sense of control of this one's wife. She must have that control. Individuals must be anticipating her needs and actions, but they've once again failed to do so. "You're paid to keep this house clean and tidy," barks this one's wife, raising her voice. The housekeeper shrinks back. She's used to these bursts of fury, but nevertheless, it still upsets her when she's on the receiving end of it. I'm sorry, she announces. "Just tell me where it is and I'll go and deal with it now." "It's in the main corridor. Archie has been drawing on the wall. Go and get it cleaned." Thus, the housekeeper scurries away, reaching for her cleaning equipment, demonstrating that she is under control. This one's wife had Archie, the the nanny, and the housekeeper all come up on her radar, and then Lilibet also. Lilibet easily demonstrated she was under control. Archie was not, but he was dispensed with. And, utilising hoovers, this one's wife asserted control directly over the nanny, and the housekeeper. This one's wife is now on her own. There's nobody to control. There's nobody on her radar. And she decides that she's going to head back to the office. As she walks there, a thought just pops up into her head. The fact that the narcissist may just think about something means that there's always a risk that you will be hoovered, because there's always a risk of a hoover trigger. Because although you may ensure, and you should do this, that you stay away from the narcissist, you don't communicate with the narcissist, you don't walk past where the narcissist lives, you can't fully remove yourself from the world of the narcissist, because the narcissist may be reminded of you by something or someone, or just think about you. Here, this one's wife has thought about her agency. They've been brought on the radar, and this has caused a hoover trigger. She now needs to assert control over the relevant member of the agency, which means she heads to her desk and makes a call. A further set of examples to enable you to understand the way that this one's wife behaves behind the scenes, the way that she treats her children and her staff. A useful insight, I'm sure you'll agree. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.